Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's VC Task Force Gary's Picks event for investors and startups. My name is Joel Rosenberg, Director of Business Development and Strategy for VC Task Force. VC Task Force is an organization where the venture community comes together to address critical issues, provide workshops, and other events for the benefit of the venture and entrepreneurial communities. VC Task Force provides access to an extensive ecosystem of VCs, corporate VCs, and angel investors. You may ask questions anytime during the event, and time permitting, they will be answered live after today's interview. It is my pleasure to welcome Gary's Picks host, Gary Fowler. Gary is CEO and co-founder of GSD Venture Studios, an award-winning growth stage AI venture studio. Gary is also co-founder of the award-winning AI startup Yva.ai, as well as the investment firm DY Investments. Today, Gary will be interviewing special guest Juraj, founder and CEO of Mileus, whose mission is to reduce the number of personal vehicles in our cities. Mileus brings a subscription model into the taxi and ride-hailing industry with guaranteed and comfortable daily commute service, seamlessly combining public transport with taxi and ride-hailing services into a mobility as a service solution. Mileus was ranked top 5 intermodal mobility solutions by Stardust Insights. Juraj co-founded and built Liftago, the largest Czech ride-hailing company, only to learn that ride-hailing has added more cars in total to our streets. In response, he founded his current startup, Mileus. Mileus's mission is to enable taxi and ride-hail operators to grow their business sustainably while giving commuters a comfortable and viable alternative to using their own car. Take it away, Gary.
Thank you, Joel, and thanks, June, and the entire VC Task Force team. As Joel said, my name is Gary Fowler, and I'm the CEO, co-founder of GSD Get You Done Venture Studios. So it's great to be here. So Juraj, I have some questions. How in the world did you get to Chicago? I mean, if you think of the top 10 places, what was it during the winter and you said, I want to come out and have some cold weather, or how did you go from, I assume, the Czech Republic, right, or Slovakia? Why did you do that?
Oh, hello, everybody, and thank you for having me. Well, in fact, I actually arrived to Chicago exactly in the winter time in February 2001. And I guess I was lucky. Briefly, my background is in software engineering. So I'm a software developer who turned corporate manager, who turned entrepreneur. And I was lucky to be working on quite high-tech technologies. And through those, I was scouted by Ernst & Young, who invited me to work for them in Chicago.
Oh, I see. Okay. So you started out, so you went to university in Karlova is in Prague, correct? That's where you got
your correct. Yeah.
And then you went to, you were at Capgemini, service delivery, Nest Technologies, program management. You can see the progress. It looks like program manager offshore, extended development centers. Then you start head of e-health at Slovakia. Why did you do that? What happened with the e-health? How did you get into that? Was one day you said, oh, I'm going to do e-health?
So when we came back after about 6 years spent in the US, we came back to Europe, to Prague, and I wasn't really working on any Prague projects, but rather pan-European projects. And one of those projects happened to be electronic health system for Slovakian government. So I was building a program office and really building the whole organization for providing delivery services and development services for this project.
No, it's interesting. And how was it when there's a lot of cultural differences between, being in Prague and the Czech Republic and being in Chicago. What was the biggest difference that you saw when you came out from a business standpoint? What was the biggest difference?
So what I learned coming from Europe or from Czech Republic to the US, I learned that we shouldn't be, as European or Central Europeans, Eastern Europeans, shouldn't be really ashamed of our capabilities, because our capabilities are really good in comparison to the US. Well, what is the shortcoming of Central European people is we don't tend to be able to really sell ourselves. So that's where Americans actually are better at. But comparing capabilities, we are on the same level.
Well, I think in a lot of ways you're higher. And I'll give you a direct example. One time I had this person who is a PhD, and he said, I know a little bit about algorithmic math, and I know a little bit about AI and machine learning. And he was very, very modest. It turns out he's the editor of that magazine. And so he was the top person and recognized as one of the top 10. That happened to be in Russia at the time. But I mean, I said, you can't like downplay it. He said, oh, no, we can't be boastful. I said, you got to talk to people about what you have. It's like having a Ferrari in your garage. If you don't bring it out and nobody sees it, only you know it's a Ferrari. He said, well, but that's not how we do it. But that's how you do it. That's sales. And I think, you know, you're part of the deal is I know growing up as a kid, when I was 10 years old, we had lemonade stands. We learned how to sell. We were selling newspapers. We were selling things all the time. And, you know, the better your sign was, the more you sold. And if you did it when it's really hot, I remember in the summertime, there were a bunch of, a number of guys were doing the overhead, the electric, and it was hot. And I took some lemons. I took my mom's lemons. I made a lot of lemonade, really good lemonade. I could sell it for whatever I wanted to get out of it. Those guys were really thirsty. My mom said, now don't you do that. You're taking advantage of them because I said, Mom, but I'm making my little business, you know. I made $2. I thought I hit the jackpot. But, you know, part of it is that. And the other thing is, you know, you can't have this modest mentality because it doesn't work when you're in sales. You got to talk about what you got. You got to talk about the features and benefits. And that's part of it. So
Absolutely.
I understand what you're saying. So you come you come over working for Ernst. So how was it? How was the corporate culture once you were inside? So inside of a large company, how did that feel?
I learned a lot because this was really my first big corporate job. Before I worked for small companies in Prague, so this was my the first one. And so suddenly you're coming to a new culture, a new geography, and also a step up in your job. So a lot to grasp, but very much enjoyed it, and I learned a lot, of course.
That's great.
You know, I've learned a lot about how in those big corporations people share, and the mutual knowledge is managed. This is something that many small organizations actually lack.
What about the politics?
I guess I was lucky that I was a part of a small EY group or a small EY unit where I didn't encounter too much of a corporate politics.
No, that's great. Okay, so you went to Ness. So why did you get into the offshore, nearshore stuff? What made you decide in 2011, which was a good time to do it, but why did you do that?
When we decided that we wanted to move back from the US to Europe, I was looking for what's next for me. And whenever I talked to companies in the Czech Republic, mostly what I received as an answer was, we'd like to have you, but once you are back, let us know and we'll get you on board. And I told them, you know what, if I am back, or once I am back, I already have my job. So that was really strange that I felt like
yeah, I hear that a lot though, by the way. That's not just in, going over back to Prague. I hear that here in the US. If you're going out to California, people say, well, geez, you're interested in a job. Yeah, this is a long time ago, right? And doing something. Once you're here, we'll talk to you. For some reason, it's kind of odd. I think it's changed a little bit now though with the pandemic.
Maybe. So Nest Technologies actually were the ones who told me, yes, we want you because we want to get your experience from doing offshore application management. That's what I've done in the US, and we want you to replicate or help us doing similar things here in Europe for Western European and Northern American companies or clients. So they were the first one who told me, yes, we want you. Just let us know when you are back and you have a job with us.
Oh, that's great. So what about you went from there and then you worked at Liftago, right? So I have, was there anything, I see co-founder and CEO making transport hassle-free for everyone, but then I see Liftago. Is that Liftago?
Yes, it is. Liftago is a ride-hailing company or platform that works with professional taxi drivers. So we were a couple of years late to the game when you already had, and this is late 2011, when you already had Uber and Lyft raising the VCA $10-15 million, and we were just started. But we took the advantage of being late and learned what these companies, at least what we saw as them doing not as good as we thought it could be done, and we learned by their mistakes. And of course, we weren't the first one, even here on the Czech market, but we worked with professional taxi drivers. We built an exchange of capacity. So we brought a new business innovation to the new disrupting taxi industry.
Interesting. So what kind of volume did you have with that? I mean, you built it, you became number one. Well, how big was the company? What happened to it?
So after about 6 years building that, being CEO, I decided that the company needed different talents that I wanted to provide and to focus on. So I relieved myself from CEO duties. Later, I relieved myself from all of the execution duties, but I haven't exited Liftago. So I'm still a shareholder. Liftago is still striving. Today, Liftago is in more than 20 cities in the Czech Republic and Slovakia. Lately, of course, adding not only taxi transportation, but on top of taxi transportation, adding delivery, as many players in the industry had to do. So I'm very happy that Liftago is striving, and I'm riding that roller coaster together, except no longer in the executing.
Oh, I see. I got it. Okay, so you do that. And then what made you decide in 2017, so 2019, when you moved out, what made you decide to fund Mileus? So what happened with that? So how did you come about that?
I'm still in the mobility industry. This is where my heart is. That's where I want to contribute. So when I saw what the ride-hailing industry actually was bringing, and most of these players, if not all of these players, became with a vision that we want to motivate people and remove people from their own cars. And after 6-8 years, and this is 2017, 2018, I came to a realization that we are failing on that front. Maybe it was too early, but what the industry also saw was that we are actually adding more negativities to the sustainability or to the transportation, adding more cars and stealing ridership from public transportation. And while still being a shareholder of Liftago, I was looking for ways, how can we ensure a rapid growth of this ride-hailing player or ride-hailing industry without having those negative effects? And that's how actually Mileus came to be. And I decided to build this new project outside of Liftago because I saw that Liftago still has quite a lot of priorities and focus on doing and building what they were building and are building today. And if there was a chance to bring something new, it better be a new organization that is, kind of partnering with Liftago and not competing, but rather complementing what Liftago does and did.
Got it. And so when you left, how did you get started? How did you start the company? What happened? The one day you said, "Oh, I'm going to do this differently," and then all of a sudden move out. And how did you do that?
It was about a year time, 2018, when I was no longer involved in day-to-day execution of Liftago and analyzing, thinking, how can I help the industry? How can I make? How can we really not add those negative externalities as retailing industry, and at the same time, how can we really motivate people to not drive their cars to the city, to not commute with their cars to the city? So it's about a year of analyzing, a year of trying, testing things. And by early 2019, I started to invest more. I started to do more customer development and market validations. And in September 2019, that's when I started to build the organization. So I was looking for a technical co-founder during 2019. And in September 2019, we were ready to start and build the organization and build the product.
How many employees do you have today?
Today, there is 10 of us.
10 employees. Excellent. So tell us about what the future is going to look like. So you're going to stay in the Czech Republic, or you move, what's going to happen next? What are your stages? Are you going to go global, or are you going to stay in the Czech Republic? What's going to happen?
Since the very first months of building this, I knew that what we're building, or the Czech Republic is very small for what we are building. Doing business in the Czech Republic would not cover for the cost and would not be sufficient for this kind of business. So from the get-go, we know that this is a global product and a global business that we are building. And by now, we do have a second version of the product and the subscription business innovation baked into what we do, into our product. So we are ready to start expanding. We've done a couple of pilots, analytical and also operational pilots in the Czech Republic and Slovakia. But now we're focusing this year on entering the UK market and bringing the subscription evening commute service to the UK market and to the residents of Tier 1 and Tier 2 cities. It really is about 11 cities that are relevant in the UK, quite a large market for us to enter and penetrate with our new service.
What about raising money? Where are you with that? Are you going to be raising any money? What's happening with that right now?
Yeah, and we are currently raising a seed round of 2 million euro, and that's exactly to help us in entering the UK market with this new product, with the subscription service. So it is a little bit of a chicken egg. We do have a product. We are ready to enter the UK market, but for doing so, we need the funds to be able to succeed and show a reasonable traction and market fit the product.
Got it. So, you've had, when you're doing a startup, there's always ups and downs, right? When you go through it, how do you navigate through that? When your wife's coming or your girlfriend's coming to you and saying, oh, it's, I don't see anything. When is this going to take off? We don't have money coming in. How do you do that? Tell us mentally, how do you, tune yourself in to, stay positive?
And yes, you're right. With any startup, there are ups and downs, and I'm lucky to have.
It's like a roller coaster, right? It goes like this. Sometimes.
Exactly. I'm lucky to have my technical co-founder, where we actually complement each other. At sometimes I'm down and he's up, and vice versa. And I started my first startup in my late 30s, and now I'm in my late 40s, and it's really a different mindset and different situation where let's say that my corporate career has set me for not struggling financially when things don't go as expected with the startups. So in that sense, I lived through those.
So you have a cushion. You have a cushion. It doesn't really matter. It's okay.
Yeah. So, but still, yeah, those downs happen, and people or founders need to look for them and catch the roller coaster ride downhill to make corrections and to prepare for quote unquote easy landing, let's say.
Yeah. No, you're right about that. The easy landing is really important. And you got to look in the market. So what would you do if somebody like Uber came up to you or Lyft and said, I want to buy it? Would you be willing to go work in one of those companies for 3 years and become one of those corporate executives? And, I know my friends in Silicon Valley, they make fun of it, but they say at one of the companies, you go up to the top and they have a dining room at the very top of their building. And that's where the people that have their companies bought sit because they don't have anything to do, right? So they sit up there and they, do stuff, but they can't leave the building. They got to be present as part of their agreement. What would you do? Could you go back into that culture again?
Yes and no, and it really depends on what kind of culture it is. So if it was Uber 6 years ago, I would be very hesitant to do so. Uber today is totally different company than it was six, 7 years ago, and so I would definitely consider something like that. And me building Mileus is really, there is a goal of exiting Mileus to a strategic partner at some point, where those synergies with a stronger partner will help me in pushing my visions and pushing the sustainability of transportation even further and even in a bigger sense. So yes, I've definitely been discussing any potential opportunities.
I just had a question. We've got a question from Africa. And the question is, would you be willing, or do you see a prospect in the African market to be able to open up?
Yes, although we are focusing today or this year on the UK market or European market in general, the intermodal service and the subscription service that we're building and providing is based on a fact where, or it actually is relevant in cities where there is good public transportation network, or the backbone public transportation network. Because without that, there is nothing to extend with the on-demand transportation.
Right.
There would be cities in Africa that could be applicable, but as comparing North America, Asia, Africa, or MENA region and the European region, what we saw is that in Europe you have a lot of cities where public transportation network is so good that our service can actually thrive there, and there is the best chance to market fit and show that this works.
Well, I mean, it's a lot better in the US, right? I mean, the US has been drive a car, buy a car. I mean, the public transportation hasn't been up to snuff. I know in, being in Eastern Europe myself for some time in Russia, it's just the public transportation is the way you get around. It's like, why would you even have a car? Because it's that good.
Well, I wouldn't rule out North America, because even in the US, you still have a handful of cities where public transportation is quite good. And we're talking Boston, New York, even San Francisco, for example. So there would be cities which are relevant for our service and our product. Nevertheless, if you look at the US being car-centric culture, where you have 80% of the commuting happening in individual cars, and only 20% are something different. In Europe, that's more of a 60 to 40 or 70 to 30%. So 60 to 70 to almost 80% in some cities are people who already commute using the transit instead of their cars.
Well, it saves a lot of money. Some of those European countries charge a lot of money for cars. They have I think a special tax or something. It's a lot more, they're a lot more expensive. So they don't encourage you to drive, and the gas is crazy expensive.
Yeah, well, if you only look at the margins that the car manufacturers can use in the US because of the large population, and any city in the Europe, that's only one thing which increases price of the car in Europe. And the second thing is you compare a sales tax of roughly 8% in the US with the VAT, which is 20 plus in Europe. So
20+% VAT.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a lot. That's a lot. Okay, so let's look at the future. What's going to happen over the next years, and then closing thoughts and how can people reach you? So what do you see? What's the future of Mileus over the next year, and how can people reach you?
So we successfully fundraised our seed round. We entered the UK. We showed that subscription evening commute service works. We add a morning commute to the subscription. So initially we target the transit commuter because we are increasing comfortable journeys for them. Once we add morning subscription or subscription for the morning commute, We can also target the car commuter segment because suddenly we have provided a guaranteed comfortable way how to get to the city and back from the city. So that's the UK market. Of course, focusing also on selling our technology and our services on the European market. And we've already received a couple of inquiries from around the world, Asia, and even in Canada. So these we're tackling opportunistically, so we're not closing ourselves from being able to work with partners outside of Europe. We're just currently, at least I guess this year and maybe probably also next year, won't be focusing on other markets ourselves directly. So opportunistic about Asia and Middle East and North America, but focusing on the UK and Europe.
It's interesting. We just got a statement here. It said U.S. public transportation becoming much more dangerous. Most cities provide a bus stop and maybe a bench, but few provide any protection from weather. In Florida, it's a little different here because I'm in Florida right now, not in my place in California, but here they do have incredible, if you want to use the trains to go to, for instance, Miami or to Disney, incredible transportation to get there. So it does exist. Each city's different, each state's different, each country's different. So there's a great opportunity for you. You're just at the beginning of this journey. So how do people get a hold of you? LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter?
I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Twitter, I'm also on Facebook, although I keep Facebook to my personal stuff, but business related, Twitter, LinkedIn, people can find me. All
right, thanks a lot. I really appreciate it, Juraj. So it's great to have you here today. And Joel, thank you very much for hosting us today. It's really appreciated. My name is Gary Fowler, and I am the host of Gary's Picks on VC Task Force. Stay tuned for another exciting edition coming up in 2 weeks. Stay happy, stay healthy, and stay safe. And I'll see you soon. Thanks, everybody. And June, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks everybody today. Again, Yva.ai, excellent, very timely discussion. Really appreciate that. Gary, another excellent event. We'll see everybody back here on March 2nd for the next episode of Gary's Picks. Till then.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.